Welcome to 90210 Universe, a podcast dedicated to showcasing unique, creative, and diverse humans who are making their mark by living their legacies. Visionaries who took and take action daily. We all have a story. Here, we share ours to inspire, move, and empower others. It's okay to face challenges as we all journey through survival, thriving, and succeed in life. So join us as we spotlight rock stars who navigate the roller coasters of life and use their uniqueness to show that if they can do it, so can you.
Okay, welcome to the 9021 Universe podcast, where we share the inspiring journeys of extraordinary individuals from our community. We celebrate their stories of resilience and achievement. And I'm Michele Wilson, your host for today. And we are going to have an amazing conversation. And we are so grateful to our sponsor, 90210 Enterprise. And thank you for joining us today. We are going to have Joseph McGuire, who is the founder of Clearsight Communications. He specializes in facial profiling, behavioral negotiation, consulting for business leaders, and he's also the author of Face Facts, the art of reading your clients and prospects for sales, negotiation, and recruitment. So thank you for joining us today, Joseph.
Oh, absolute pleasure, Michele. Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. And we're excited to learn a little bit more about your story. Now, I know you've had 35 years reading faces. And so kind of just take me back, your journey. Like, how did you, as a child, even thought about, was that what part of your journey? Oh, I want to read faces for a career. So just give us a little background and tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, I guess as a child, you don't think really in terms of careers anyway. But no, as a child, I remember I could read people. I just intuitively knew stuff about people. And I guess I thought, well, if it's obvious to me, it must be obvious to everybody else. And it wasn't like I knew people's, deep, dark secrets, but I could read people's personality, character, who was being honest, who was hiding something. And my dad used to bring me to soccer matches as a kid. And I could see the patterns of play before they developed. I could see who was going to go where and who wasn't committed and who was going to lose confidence when things went against them or become complacent when things went well. And it was just blatantly obvious to me. But it wasn't until many years later when I lived in London. I grew up in Ireland. I moved to Israel for a time. Then I moved to London. I started to study in London. And I trained in a branch of Oriental medicine, and I was introduced to facial diagnosis. And it was from the Chinese system. And the Chinese system understood that the mind and the body are one inseparable unit. So rather than thinking in terms of, liver, heart, kidneys, etc., they thought in terms of, well, the liver relates to this aspect of personality, kidneys relate to that aspect. So you're looking at the face and you're getting a picture of the whole person. And then there are layers and layers and layers within that you can look at. So you can sort of divide the face into different sections and talk about mother's influence, father's influence, and so much more besides. So there wasn't a plan. It's a long-winded answer to your question, Michele, but there wasn't a plan. It just kind of evolved.
So you talked about you had this intuitive gift when you were young, and it sounds like you still were able to use that gift to guide you to this particular to your career now. And can you tell me, like, how did that impact you learning about face recognition in your own life? I mean, I know you do it for your clients, but has it impacted you in your career, in your personal life? I'm just a little bit curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we're all doing it. We just don't necessarily realize we do it because we register faces in something like 1/17th of a second. And when we see a face, we tell ourselves a story about the person.
Absolutely.
Again, before we have time to even think about it, we tell ourselves a story about the person, which may or may not have anything to do with the actual person. But we've told ourselves a story. We've created a fiction, like a movie in our head about who they really are. So for me, in using my skills, whether it's in my personal life or my professional life, I've just stepped back from that and look at, okay, what am I actually seeing? What am I actually sensing here? So it's not just using the eyes, it's using the eyes, the ears, listening for how people speak, not so much what people say, but how they speak, what they're not saying. It's also then using, using gut instinct as well, because like I use ideas and knowledge from wherever,
Right.
as long as practical and as long as it fits. So I've been influenced by the work of the Heart Math Institute, and their research has proven that we have a brain in our gut, we have a brain in our heart, and we have a brain in our head. So for me, it's using those three brains as well as our eyes, as well as our ears, and bringing them all together. So it's not just observation. It's not just listening. It's listening, observation, sensing, and all of that in harmony. So yes, it influences how I engage with people, who I engage with, or who I choose not to engage with, personally or professionally.
And that was actually my next question, like, how do you use it? And, as you said, it teaches you how to engage in people that you want to engage with and those that you don't. Can you think of an instance that you in your journey that really was like a pivotal point when you were using face recognition to help you maybe overcome a challenge in your life? Have you had a lesson like that, a lesson learned that you could share with us?
Yeah, I guess so. There's one a few years ago. I went through a very difficult relationship breakup, and I was not in a good place. And I was
Mm.
introduced through a really good friend. I was introduced to somebody he had interviewed for his podcast, somebody in a different country, and my friend said, you guys should connect. So we did, and we seemed to get on really well on a couple of calls. And then this person invited me to a seminar he was giving in this other country, and I went over, and again seemed to be fine, but the antennae were kind of,
Right.
yeah, something isn't quite right here. But he was very pleasant to me,
Okay.
but it gradually emerged that he wasn't being very pleasant to the women in his circle, and there were mainly women in his circle.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just, it actually happened one night. I was actually woken, not like there was nobody near me or anything, but one night I was woken with this awareness. No, cut ties with this person. And then when I cut ties, I was immediately exiled from the group. But then people from the group started reaching out to me and telling me what they had been experiencing, some of which was absolutely horrendous.
So go
But
back
I,
into, you were saying like
but
that intuitive. I'm sorry. No.
yeah, just one key point. I was in a low place. My
Okay.
confidence was low, and that's a crucial thing I've noticed with so many people, that because I've helped a lot of people who've been very vulnerable and been through really dark experiences, and when a I'll use the term predator, or
Mm.
somebody has predatory instincts, they will pick up on that instantly. They will know who's vulnerable.
Well, that is a key point there, like you said, and that you became aware of your vulnerability at that time, and you were able to tap into that. And even though you didn't know what it was, you still allowed your intuition say, "Hey, this is not the person I need to be with, or the group that I need to be with." And so that's really profound because, as you said, I know there's a lot of people, and I've been in that position too, where, like my confidence has been low and I've been very vulnerable. And I find myself in situations where I call them learning situations, but still I went through the situation. And I'm just, you talked about the face recognition. Did you pick up anything first when you were, when you met this individual that kind of keyed into that intuition? Was it something about his face? And was this before or after your, I know you said you studied for about 4 years, I believe I read in your bio, and I
Oh,
think we had conversation. So was that before or after? I'm just a little bit curious
oh,
about that.
this was actually much more recent,
Oh, more
and
recent.
so I had a lot of experience behind me. But like I
Okay.
said, I had a very difficult relationship, long-term relationship breakup, which just it wiped me out financially and emotionally, and I wasn't expecting it. It just happened, so I
Right.
was quite devastated. So my confidence was in pieces. So I wasn't really trusting my instincts. When I look back, yes, he was too slick.
Okay.
It was too careful. The image, the presentation was too carefully crafted.
Wow, that's really amazing and key, because no matter how successful we are in life, how much we've done work on ourselves, we can still find our place in that, where we're, vulnerable. And, it could be a relationship, it could be a loss, it could be several different things. And even though you sound like you almost got roped into it, but you were still able to, the skills that you have learned, was you were still able to, I guess, kind of like that safety net, I want to say, that you knew that there was something wrong. And I think that's really key. And can you just share with us a little bit? I know you said you distanced yourself, but how did you get the courage? Because sometimes we find ourselves in these situations where we're doubting ourselves. So how did you get the courage to say, hey, this is not where I need to be, or the group I need to be, especially if this person was really slick in, what he was saying and so forth. How did you, kind of get out of the situation, or that, relationship?
Sure. Well, one big realization I've had is when we're in a place of challenge or difficulty, we have to sort of step back from the challenge itself
Mm,
and not make it into something monumental, but
right.
to go back inside, to connect with our own essence, to connect with higher power, whatever term you want to use, and just realize there's a decision to be made here. And even if it's difficult, even if it seems like I don't know what's next, and I'm stepping, into the abyss, as it were, you still have to trust that this is the decision I need to make. This is the choice I need to make. And it's like I can't remember there's one of the Indiana Jones movies. I think it's the Temple of Doom one, where there's the bridge that he can't see, and he's to step out onto it.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I remember that scene,
yeah, it's
right?
a famous scene, and it's only when he steps out he finds the bridge is there, and it's
Right.
like you've got to trust, even when you really have no idea what's going to happen. You've got to be in that place of absolute trust that there is, a higher power watching over us, even
Right.
if there's huge doubt there.
Yeah, because sometimes, like you said, the stairway or that bridge isn't necessarily there, but it in that trusting, it will reveal to you, like in Indiana Jones, that bridge
Yeah.
was revealed to him once he trusted. So you're saying even like trusting yourself and trusting the higher power, and trusting that you, like you said, your intuition, trusting your intuition, right? Like you knew there's something was wrong there,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't fitting. So just trusting that, which is really, I believe, the higher power, God within us, right? Talking to us and sharing with us that, this is not quite right, especially in your situation. So thank you for sharing that experience with us. And we're going to be taking a break shortly, but as a how do you handle when you tell people, hey, I read faces, and as an individual just meeting you for the first time, do you ever get kind of like a pushback and so forth? Because,
Mhm.
you're saying that I guess we wear ourselves on our faces, like who we are, pretty much. Is that what you mean by face recognition?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we all wear masks. Because we all like to present ourselves as being confident, competent, elegant, attractive, whatever. And we all like to wear the mask, and we'd like to think that that's what's seen, that, that image that we're looking to project is what's seen. Obviously, I'm looking differently. But I do get various reactions. I do get people, even some cases, people who know me well, that they like, don't look at me, just don't look at me. And then I get other people where they do the eye roll. Oh, what's this nonsense? So the reactions are varied, and really it's down to me to put people at ease.
Wow. Well, we're going to hold that thought, because I love what you talked about, people wearing masks, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. And we're going to take a short break from our sponsor, and we would love for you to hear our sponsor. So let's take a break.
Welcome to 90210 Enterprise, where your dreams take flight. Join an exclusive community of over 20,000 professionals, unlocking access to world-class business consulting and powerful networking opportunities with expertise spanning 12 specialized sectors, including network, business and ventures, real estate, finance, and more. Choose from our tailored access plans, corporate access and executive access. Unlock exclusive benefits of corporate and executive access, including a 30-minute orientation with Dr. Natalie Forrest, Executive Director of 90210 and President of the Media Vertical, and a 45-minute consultation with Ashkan Tabibnia, Founder and CEO of 90210 Enterprise for Corporate Access members. Executive Access members receive a 30-minute consultation. As a member, you enjoy access to special opportunities to expand your reach, participate, and collaborate with our partners, such as Vire and Depeche, and have your message be shared globally. Are you ready to turn your dreams into reality? Join us today and experience the difference. Contact us at 90210enterprise@gmail.com.
Okay, we are back with 90210 Universe, and we are here with Joseph McGuire, who is a face recognition expert. And we've been hearing about his story, about really how he got started, and he's been sharing, just his story just recently about a relationship that he was involved in and how he actually was able to use the skills that he's learned over the years to help him overcome this challenge in his life. So we are back, and we were just talking about when you meet people, Joseph, and how people wear masks. And when you have that first interaction, because they always say that first impressions make a huge difference. So how have you been able to help others, or even yourself, like I said, you have a mask that we're able to really identify, to take away the mask so that we can really be ourselves? Because I know for me, I really want to be authentic in what I'm doing. And, when I'm meeting people, I want to be able to connect with them. But what is it in your work, or that you have learned over the years, because you studied this for about 35 plus years as part of your career? What have you done to learn, to help people, take away the mask? How have you been able to take a mask, and how liberating can that be in one's in a relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I learned a long time ago, I was a therapist for like 30 years. And one of the things I learned a long time ago was even hugely successful people tend to be insecure about something. Virtually everybody, with almost no exceptions, is insecure about something. So we generally don't like to show our vulnerability as a species. We don't like to show our vulnerability, particularly if it's somebody new and somebody we're not close to. And even then, with people we're close to, that can be a whole other area as well. So for me, one of my primary aims is to help ensure people feel better about themselves for the experience of meeting me.
Wow.
So I look to help people bring out more of the light that's within them.
So you're saying, I think you talked about it before in a previous conversation before we on our podcast, but just how when you're saying you were looking at the faces, that there's the different angles of the faces. Now, I remember you shared with me that there was a point in time when people thought that you weren't friendly, or that because of your eyebrows. I kind of remember that conversation. So it's kind of going back to, that's not true, right, about you, but you were able to change that because you are aware of that. Is that what you're talking about right now? Like when we show up, we may not even know that we're doing this consciously. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're that type of person, because as you said, you're judging all the time. So how are we able to do that, knowing this particular, knowing about face recognition? How can we do that for ourselves?
Yeah, one of the things I learned, and it took me a long time to learn it, because I grew up with very little confidence. I was a very introverted teenager, very withdrawn. So my face is relatively angular anyway. So one of the things I had to learn to do was smile. I had to practice smiling, because when we smile, it triggers a response in other people. It tells them, like when we give what's called the full Duchenne smile, where the eyes are smiling as well. When we give that full smile, it triggers a response in others. It tells them we are not a threat. So it creates a degree of relaxation within them. So the first thing, and I recommend it even in professional business situations, greet people with a smile. And you
Now,
mentioned, yeah,
yeah, and one thing about that, you said greet people with a smile, but doesn't that even give you endorphins when you, as like a person of self,
yeah,
not confident, if they smile, doesn't that make them feel good too? On the other side.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. It's again, it's that idea of creating a bridge.
I love that.
You're creating a connection. You're creating a bond between you. So you're opening the door to something possible happening. So something positive happening.
So that one simple tip when you meet someone is just a smile will make a huge
Yeah,
difference if you're an introvert, even if you're extrovert. But that's an
yeah.
amazing tip. And what else can you share with us that, as especially to our community, where our community is business owners, entrepreneurs, and we're looking to connect on all different levels. What else can you share with us that you have learned in your journey and your expertise?
Gosh, there's so many bits and pieces, but I'll give you something very simple. Pay attention to somebody's eyebrows. And yes, I am aware that many women do shape their eyebrows, but look at the basic eyebrow shape. If the eyebrow shape is essentially straight across, these are people who deal in data. They want the facts and
Mm.
the figures. So they don't want you, being in all happy clappy and lots of smiles and how are you? Let's have fun here. They're there for business. So you go slowly and steadily with them. Whereas if somebody's eyebrows are more curved, like yours are more curved. So then you get into feeling. How are you?
Mm.
And it's pleasant, and that's where you bring in the smile, because that's important. That's an important way to greet you, because you process through feeling.
Mm.
And then there's so many variations on eyebrows, but one other very practical one, and it's more to do with body language. If you're speaking to somebody and you notice their eyebrows drop while you're speaking, they've stopped listening.
Mm.
So it's a non-verbal message to you: shut up and ask them a question, get them to speak. Yeah.
Right. I remember years ago, I learned in business, like there was like four types of people, those that, like you said, are data driven, and those that are, money kind of driven, and those that just like to have fun, and those that want to help people. And so when you're speaking to that individual, knowing those things, you could speak towards that. And I like what you were saying. If it's a data driven person, they don't, you want to make sure you're talking about data as opposed to, you know, sports or the weather or family. And so do you find that kind of true? I mean, that's kind of a basic explanation that I have, but does it help you communicate when you know the type of person that you are speaking to?
Oh, absolutely. It's essential. It's essential because the thing is, there's a quote from Aeneas Nin: we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And we
Yeah,
tend to come from our default setting. And
right.
the fact that we're, even if we're speaking technically the same language, it doesn't mean we're speaking the same language. So
Exactly.
it's recognizing where the other person is coming from, how they need to be, how they need to be communicated with, how they process.
And I've
Other
learned that
rather
communication
just
is
talking.
like, right, because I've learned years ago, I thought communication is what I said, and that's not necessarily, it's what the other person's receiving. That's when the communication actually happens. So with what you're doing, it sounds like that you're really helping individuals and also yourself being able to be better communicators. With being better communicators, then you have better relationships, your business can be successful. I mean, can you share some of the benefits of just what you're doing and how it can really impact a person professionally and personally?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I work with people in a lot of different professional scenarios. I've worked a lot with sales teams, so it's helping them recognize, a client comes in, a customer comes in, just pay attention to some key visuals so you know how to connect with them, in the moment. I work with people in the negotiation space, so it's helping them recognize who they're going to be meeting. I do a lot of, preparation for negotiation. So we'll look at photos or videos of the people they're going to be negotiating with. So you get deep insights into how they process information, what's likely to cause them stress as well, and how they're likely to behave under stress, because negotiation can be very stressful. I do a lot of work in the interview space, executive interviews, where again, you want to make sure you choose the right candidate for the company, because the failure rate for executive appointments globally is somewhere between 50 and 70% in the first 18 months, which is quite
Wow.
shocking. So I'm helping people ensure they get the right person as opposed to the person who presents well and has, a nice glossy image.
That's amazing. And as you said, especially now in the work industry, and I know you work with clients all over the world. Is that correct? That you work with clients
Yeah.
all over the world? And do you find it different being working personally with a person, or even because now we're using Zoom? It's a lot has been done through the electronic space and so forth. Do you find that there's a difference when you're actually in person with the person in person, as opposed to being, on a Zoom call or something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a difference. Like when you're obviously in person with somebody, you're getting to see their whole body, the whole body, the whole body expression, the movement. Because again, if you're meeting somebody in person, ideally, I would pay attention to what their feet are doing as well, because their
Oh,
feet
wow.
will tell me a lot. What their feet are doing will tell me a lot. What their hands are doing, are their hands visible? Because that's actually, when we meet somebody in person, that's the first thing we register. Where are their hands and what are their hands doing? And this goes back apparently to like our most ancient ancestors, because they had to recognize if they lived in small groups, they had to recognize if somebody was coming towards them, they had to recognize whether the hands were carrying a weapon or not. So
Wow.
we're still programmed to pay attention. So, for example, if you meet somebody in person and their hands are not visible, it's maybe not a red flag, but you're wondering what's really going on here, and you're not going to be fully at ease.
So what are some of the things that a person probably be thinking? What, they're hiding something, or is it like you said, is it thinking that's going through our mind, or is just something like something's not right because I don't see their hands, or is our
Yeah,
brain process something at that time?
yeah.
Right?
It'll there are many different signals you might be picking up on, but if their hands are not visible, you'll be wondering, okay, I'm not sure I can fully trust them. So what are they hiding?
Right. So
But
it
it
sounds
doesn't
like
mean
when
that
you first
they may not be hiding anything. But
right.
you know,
But we're picking up that subconsciously, right? Because that's just how we are innate as human beings. And so it really sounds like when you first meet a person, or even when you are have a relationship, it's those nonverbal that are just important as verbal communication. And so it sounds like that the face recognition is about a lot about nonverbal, like what we're seeing, but we're picking up intuitively, or like I said, subconsciously, and our minds is just creating these stories in our head, as you said. So when you're working with people, you're able to kind of dismantle those stories. Is that's what's happening when you're in this space of really kind of understanding what's going on? Like you said, when you see a person's, like I said, the first thing you look at is their feet. So if I'm a person that doesn't have this gift or skill, I might be thinking something differently than you who does have the skill. Is that what you're kind of sharing with us today?
yeah. But again, we all have instinct, we all have intuition,
Mm-hmm.
and what we don't tend to, what we many of us don't tend to realize is the body is continually transmitting and receiving. So our
Got it.
body will tell us if something is
Mhm.
okay or not. But and again, that I mentioned the gut earlier. So it's also taking care of our gut in terms of what we put into our body, making sure our gut is actually physically healthy. But
Mm.
then activities like meditation, for example, which will help us tune in. And then it's amazing what your body will actually tell you if, like, you meet somebody and there's just something off for whatever
Mhm.
reason, and you'll just get a sense. Oh, you might feel it literally in your gut. Oh, it doesn't feel right here. I don't want to be here.
So you're
And
saying listen to your gut. That's what you're really
yeah,
saying. There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
listening. And you earlier you talked about the heart and the brain. Can you share with a little bit more on how we can in tune with that? I mean, you just mentioned meditation as a way that we can kind of get in touch with ourselves, but how can we speak to our inner self that we can trust more our intuition?
Yeah, again, meditation is a very powerful, very, very powerful tool. And there are many, many forms of meditation. So I'm not going to advocate one over another. But
Right.
making time, let's just say making time to be quiet and to just pay attention to breathing. Some people like to use a mantra. Some people like to have, very soothing music on. But making time to just be at ease with oneself, peace and quiet, and spend a few minutes just breathing slowly and deeply. You can even just put your hands together over your belly, and just feel the breath coming in and out like waves. And that helps us tune into literally being in tune with the body and what the body is telling us. In terms of the heart itself, it's as much opening the heart to ourselves, to feeling our joy, to feeling love for life, to feeling love for ourselves, for the people around us, feeling the sense of just wonder at life. But also just going back to the Heart Math Institute itself, again, they've measured that the heart sends out a vibration somewhere in the region of 5 meters, which would be 10, 15 feet from the body, without us doing anything. So the heart is transmitting a vibration. So if we're in a very positive, joyful, confident state, we're sending that out into the world around us.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Joseph, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And I just love, like you said, it's just really getting in touch with your intuition and just trusting you, or trusting me, or trusting ourselves as individuals. And is there any one last, suggestion or recommendation you can make for us, like, really how we can get in tune with ourselves? I know you shared with the meditation and so forth, or a lesson that you've learned through your journey. We would love to hear just to close this out.
Yeah, one of the favorite pieces of advice I ever got was to work hard, eat simply, work hard, and sing a happy song every day.
I love to sing the song, happy song every day. And it is really about joy. I love that you talked about the heart, and it sounds like it's, about joy and just living a fulfilling life and just really having the confidence within ourselves. And that's really where it can come from, is just through our intuition. And I want to thank you for just joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you in our community, the 90210 Enterprise community. And also want to thank our viewers today for joining us. I'm Michele Wilson, and we're looking forward for you to just join us. We are on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, and we're on iTunes. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to you joining us in the next episode. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us today in the 90210 Universe, a podcast dedicated to showcasing unique, creative, and diverse humans, who we are, living their legacies, making a difference, and thereby being the change, supporting and inspiring others. Join our universe by subscribing to this podcast, follow us on social media, and contact us to join the 90210 Enterprise community to elevate your life and legacy today.